TGIF Warriors. Alexander, how are you? Hope everyone had a good week. Hope you had a good week, Simon, Mary, Shahab, Sinatra, Laura, Bran, everybody. TGIF, Dan is predicting. Who's Dan? Okay. Anyway, what does TGIF stand for you guys? What does it stand for? Thank God I found ForexAnalytix. Thank God I found F.A.C.E. Which one is it? Good morning, guys, team. Ryan.
Thank God I'm awesome.
Morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Okay, so
Good morning.
Steve is very grateful for how he's been blessed with, a great mind and
Modesty.
being able,
Yes,
being able
modesty
to
above all.
yeah, and being able to get to the point in a very quick, short manner. God left that out. All right, well, that's something you could learn. So anyway, good
I had
Friday,
to choose something to not have, you know what I mean?
Gives you something to shoot for. So anyway, I wanted to just talk briefly about the S&Ps because last month, I believe, when Matt Weller was on, he was talking about that he construed this an inside month within the previous month's range bullish. And to me, these months are neutral. They're not bullish, they're not bearish, but what they can lead to are reversal months, similar to what we had back here. So I've talked about this before. The only reason I'm bringing it up is that we're, almost, I think we're lower on the month now. Where did we close last month? 40.71, and that happened to be this week's 2-week reversal if we close under 71. So, I'm always looking for outliers. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but the most bearish thing the market can do now is to take out last week's low, and then you have like a bearish engulfing candle, should that happen. So just something to keep an eye on, that we're starting to reverse the gains of the early this month, the first week or so, after follow through of a great January. Just, be aware. That's all I'm saying, is that there aren't as many bears left, and this is happening too. So I don't care how you draw the line here. You could draw it, pick different tops, but here's the weekly. So we're way above the close from 2 weeks ago. We're approaching moving averages on the weekly, but I don't know. That's a market that I wouldn't short. We had this massive divergence here at the lows. So really the next real big barrier for me is 25. And, we get through there, just a measured move is going to give you the 30s. But, I know a lot of people that were looking for a break here in the S&Ps to be followed by another shot up towards 4,300. But, everyone gets sometimes I find myself looking for one more jiggle, one more move, and, doesn't happen. So just something to be aware of. This is something that Grega talked about when he was here last, and I believe he's here again. He talked about the VIX. He also talked about the S&Ps look negative to him. And, you have to admit, early in the week, it was resisting the strong dollar. The metals were selling off. This was the last one to give in so far this month. So nice calls on that, Grega. Nice call on the euro. Looks like it's following through. And then the last thing I want to show is, I think it's important what happened yesterday at the 30-year auction. It was a failed auction. So Rick Santelli grades them, and I think he gave the 30-year a D-, which is pretty close to a failed auction. And I guess the bid to cover was terrible as well. And when I look at this, I could see this being, some type of big ABC. Grega, you could correct me. Maybe we pull back down to, undercut this low. And the 10-year is also marching up almost only 10 bips away from the objective from this breakout that we talked about. So, perhaps we're going to get not friendly inflation numbers Tuesday, but higher yields, lower market, higher dollar. The dollar's good, not much is. The metals are trying to bounce. I'm still not impressed. 61.8 back is right here, not too far away from the blue line. I'll probably start buying some shares, some miners, if we get to 21 next week. But I still think gold still has further to go. I was thinking 1810, but there is some confluence here with the moving average around 1780. 61.8 is down here. I don't know if we're going to get there. I'll probably start around 1810 to 1800 and just scale in towards 1780, 1770. That's a week that was. And now our team's going to tell you what's going to happen next week. So I was just a reporter. And now everyone on the ForexAnalytix team lives in the future. So get out your crystal
ball.
balls. Ryan, tell
Hi,
me
Dale.
what's going to, hey, buddy, what's going to happen next week?
Not a lot, just CPI and the next governor of the Bank of Japan. Apart from that, nothing.
Yeah, so that it should be a quiet and volatile week.
It's the most important week since last week.
Yeah, you remember like how many times in your career you would say this today is very critical?
Yep.
And then then there a few days later, this day is critical. I guess they're all critical, right?
Yeah,
and
it's good, isn't it? That's what we trade for.
And to be there for the good times, you have to be there all the time, which isn't easy to be there all the time. What would help you be there all the time would be part of the community where you walk into the chat room and you don't have ideas. Okay, you come in, you're a clean slate, and then you see all these charts and something points your eye towards something, you bring up your charts and you see confluence of analysis happening in that room where you may be a classical technician or like Grega, Elliotician, or some people use GAN, a million ways to skin a cat. But you may even find a better method than you're using right now by watching other traders. So I think community is very important. If you don't want to join ours, join something and be part of something bigger than yourself, because you really do better in a community than you do being a solo act. And,
Amen, Dale.
Right? Yeah. So
and
go ahead, Ryan.
This week's a case in point. It's weeks like this where trading comes into its own because we haven't had a lot of data out this week. Markets moving around but not going anywhere really. These are the weeks where you've got to really hold your discipline because everyone wants to know the next big event. Where's the next 100 200 pip move in whatever? And sometimes you have periods where you're not going to get that. You're going to get prices moving up a bit, down a bit, not doing an awful lot. Those are the times you can lose a lot of money because you're always chasing the pot of gold instead of just saying, right, market's quiet. It's a bit directionless. I'm just going to wait for my levels, trade my levels, and let everything else in between go. It's more dangerous these sorts of weeks than when you get the busy weeks because you know what to expect. Data's going to do this or it's going to do that. CPI is going to do this or that, and the market's going to move that way or that way. But it's these quiet periods you've got to be careful, and that's where being in a community helps because you get people who say, "Okay, just take it easy a little bit," or look at that, but know your risk.
Yeah, and why not be around people that are more experienced then you can't learn it. It only happens with the passing of time, living through, SHIT. And, you can learn from the experience. You can't learn experience, but you can learn from the experience. So, find a community where the majority of the traders are trading at a higher level than you. And you'll rise to that level if you, stay in a situation where, you're just on Twitter and you're looking at, a bunch of revisionists talking about, the yen rallied, hope you caught it. You know what they're saying? First of all, they didn't catch it. And second of all, they're really not hoping you caught it. They're hoping you missed it.
Yeah.
So, there's all that toxic behavior out there. And I'd say that, you guys are, people make friendships in the community because you're in the trenches. It's like being in a battle every day.
It's like playing golf. Imagine you and me went for a game of golf, right? we'd need 50 balls, right?
Yeah.
You go out with.
You would never do that again if you did it once.
you go out and play golf with a professional, one of the famous golfers. You up your game. Your game will automatically, you'll want to push yourself and, try and get as close to that level as possible. You won't match it, but do you know what I mean? It drags you up a level.
All the people I interview, Ryan, most of them had an important person or trader or multiple mentor type people in their life to help them, begin to achieve in the market. So, besides a community, find, maybe someone in that community is going to take you under their wing. I've seen that happen before, where you find a mentor. You like their style. Huh?
We all had them.
Yeah. So anyway, just go ahead.
Hey, good morning, guys. And TGIF and what you guys are saying is absolutely true about having a mentor and having people around you, surrounding you around people that trade the markets, trade better than you. And I just can't stop thinking that I wonder why no one wants to play golf with me ever. That's weird. Anyway, TGIF guys, not joking about that, but anyway, that's the ForexAnalytix community is great. It's more of I tell our traders this all the time too. We only deal with and here, Dale, I'll go ahead and grab the screen.
Look at that VIX.
Look at that. Hey, we got a lot to actually talk about regarding the markets, but I just want to reiterate about the community. We're talking, it's like, this is us in our community right now. You can just kind of see everybody just chatting around. And the thing about, and by the way, if you guys are listening and you all are on Jumbotron, so you can say hello. The thing about our community is we are talking all the time and posting charts, talking about ideas, how we're seeing the market, where we're thinking, where we're seeing things and where it might go. And having that sense of community is awesome. It is and I get a lot of my ideas. I mean, look, I'm only looking at so many instruments, and I can't keep my eye on everything, especially with all the other things that I do throughout the day. I get a lot of my trade ideas from you guys. I mean, everybody in the community, they're like, hey, look at, the euro's up against resistance here. And I'm like, oh, hey, I'm going to scalp it short here because I know the risk reward is good, and, between the general community, talking about the stock market and indices where we think that the markets are going, the Flowonomics room, when you're talking about just, macroeconomic data. I mean, and you guys are like the brains of the groups here. I think I'll give you guys that, right, Ryan?
I don't know. We were talking about barbecue earlier on.
That you guys they're also talking about macro stuff, and then we have our trades room where we're actually posting what we're getting long, what we're getting short. And then we have a newsroom where people post articles that they see are exciting and maybe useful to other traders. So it's a huge community of so many traders, And look, there's Benedict on Jumbotron, and you can see it's what we do, and it's a wonderful place to be as a trader, just in general. But hey, enough about that. Let's talk about the markets. So first of all, I noticed crude spiked higher, and from what I was reading, it was a reduction in Russian production. Is that what it was? Is that what spiked this move higher? What it happened with you guys around during your hours? What happened there?
They're going to be cutting 500,000 barrels.
Oh,
interesting.
Okay. Well, we got the spike, and I guess look, I don't trade crude. I tend to call it more than I trade it, but we are really on support here. I guess if you guys are wanting to play crude on the long side, it'd be somewhere around here, I would think. I don't know, but crude's been kind of choppy recently. You guys have any why would Russia cut production?
Squeeze everyone.
Because
that it?
It's the price cap thing coming in from Europe. Cut production, price goes up, you sell what you can at a higher price.
Okay, all right.
Also, I was reading somewhere, I can't remember where, that the inventory is starting to build as well. So it's not like they're running out, and it's there seems to be an inventory build slowly.
Okay. All right. Well, nice little spike higher in crude. I actually wasn't thinking we were going to surpass this 618 retracement, but obviously, news can dominate and drive the markets there. Another thing that happened, I noticed overnight, we had a little spike down in the dollar yen. So what happened there? Maybe I can shift over to K-Man. I don't know if he's here.
Yeah. So there were. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
There were these articles. Nikkei first came out with it saying that Amamiya was not going to be one of the nominees for the new government post at the BOJ, and that it would be a guy called Ueda, who used to be at the BOJ 1998-2005. So the market dumped dollar yen, sold JGB futures because Amamiya was not getting it, and then started a bit of a scratch the head to know who exactly Ueda was, and so that lasted for about an hour or so, I'd say, and then Ueda himself came out with a couple of comments saying that the current policy was still the right one, and that shot dollar yen right up to where we started from, and now it's still a little bit on the defensive because Kishida and himself, Ueda, was saying that they were going to try and communicate well to everybody about the future Bank of Japan policy. So we have one that seemingly seems to be a candidate or a nominee that wasn't on any of the shortlists that anyone was thinking about. So
yeah, so as Live Squawk reported here, they're going to nominate Ueda as central bank governor, and it's like everybody's like Google searching, who the hell's this guy, right?
Yeah,
basically, that's interesting.
That was it for about an hour. I mean, the yen went stronger, but that was basically on the fact that Amamiya was not going to be one of the nominees or to be the nominee, and then afterwards started the race for who knows who is Ueda.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Well, the thing about I think we're going to get a lot of headlines like that over, because when's Kuroda's last day? It's like 8th of March, 4th of March.
We should know quite a bit more before the end of the month, because the 14th, so on Valentine's Day as well, there should be an official nomination of the next Bank of Japan governor and the deputies, and then on the 24th we should have a parliament hearing of those nominees. So we should know before the end of the month who is replacing Kuroda if everything goes according to plan.
Well, just I think, as Ryan said a little bit earlier, I think it's going to be important for everybody to watch their levels, know where they're, know where they want to be involved. I mean, you look at we talked about this yesterday, in the ForexAnalytix, the daily roundup, we were talking about the yen could hit the 618 retracement. I mean, I didn't expect it just to spike down there and reverse, based on some sort of headline, but you can see how important those levels are. I mean, we hit the 618 within a couple of pips and bounced quite aggressively. I mean, if you're like, oh yeah, I'm just looking at it technically, you put in a limit order, below the 130 big figure level because you just want to get long, on a dip down there overnight. I mean, you got triggered. I didn't trade that. I'm just saying that, these levels are going to be really important when you're dealing with some, headlines, especially even the yen. And by the way, I am looking for a dip down to 129.50 to be a long the dollar yen. It's just technically where I want to be involved. It doesn't mean it's going to be a trade that will make money. It's just, how I'm trying to play it anyway, near term. So excuse me. I know we got Grega Horvat here. We do have Canadian CPI coming out. So that could be really, some of the data that might drive us a little bit today. We'll look at the Canadian here in a few minutes, and take in any more. Oh no, we do have University of Michigan inflation expectations a little later this morning as well. It's something we should be paying attention to, and Waller, FOMC member Waller is also speaking. But let's go to Grega really quick. Grega, what are your thoughts going into the markets? Grega Horvat is our Elliott Wave technician here. He at ForexAnalytix, he's been with us almost since day one, providing Elliott Wave analysis for the markets. Grega, looking at the dollar here, I'm pulling up your analysis. It looks like you were still looking for a continued dollar rally. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. And with the recent sell-off on stocks, that resistance on the S&P 500 that we talked in the past webinar still holds pretty well. Like Dale said earlier, VIX is coming to the upside. So it looks like this dollar rally is causing some issues to bulls on stocks. And I think the stocks are headed lower, in my opinion.
Yeah, when you talk about stocks, like technically you talk about stocks heading lower. One of the things that has really happened this week that I think is very important, that is your backdrop to this drop that you're seeing in the markets. And here's Grega's counts for equities. Is we're seeing a massive repricing from the jobs report last week. Ever since we got that blah jobs report, there less of the market is anticipating a cut going into the end of this year, and as a result, we're seeing equities come under pressure, yields are rallying, and this is obviously putting stocks under pressure. And it's interesting, we haven't sold off quite as much, but you're looking at the same channel that actually I actually sent this out this morning. Let me just show everybody we're looking at the exact same channel here, basically for the basic technical analysis. We got a 50% retracement, which comes in just below where we're at. But how far do you think the stock market's going to go here, Grega?
I think that S&P 500 has a 3,800, very nice support there. And I'm also looking at Dow Jones, looking at 32,500 around.
Wait,
there.
what'd you say? 32? What? Wait, say it again.
The Dow.
Oh, the Dow. I'm like,
yeah.
I was like, did you mean 3,200?
No,
Dale, he almost made me
Next
crap my
resistance, 32,000.
no, so I thought he was I'm like almost said, well, did you mean 3,200? But and like I said, I was like, man, you seem some really deep potential risk.
Real men go long S&P here for 32,000.
Dow at 32,000. Dow at 32,000, which by the way, we are trading at 33.5 for those of you not following along. So, all right, that's interesting. So you see some downside there. How about NASDAQ? You have any views in the NASDAQ?
Similar, actually. I'm also looking there for a corrective setback as well. I would be looking there for levels around 12,000.
Okay. Where are you looking to buy gold, Grega, and silver?
Yeah, I mean, gold and silver definitely has seen some very, very strong, unexpected sell-off. I mean, I was looking for reversals, but definitely not that strong. So I think that we have to be patient a little bit more here. I think that gold could easily retrace to 1830 around there. That would be support.
Okay, thanks. So
Yeah, my
Probably
flag
the next week.
pattern, Dale, my flag pattern based on
see
you know,
that.
your throwover, it actually points just below 1800 to complete
Yeah.
that flag. Doesn't mean it's going to happen like in the next week. It's just, you know, over time it should drift down
We
towards
had
there.
a lot of noise there back in December in that area. So
Yeah, I see that as well. Okay, we got about 5 minutes before Canadian CPI. I'm going to just take a real quick look at the dollar CAD and
thanks,
hello?
Grega.
Jobs report.
What's that?
Jobs report, not CPI.
Oh, did I say CPI? It's Friday. Yeah. Thank you. It's the jobs report. Since it was.
I think you had a couple last night, man.
I didn't. I was the
At least.
announcer for my son's varsity football match, soccer
And you
match.
were
Yeah,
the announcer again.
I was the announcer again. Yeah, I got.
Okay.
It's because he has a sexy voice.
I crushed it. By the way, I did. I did the goal, and I went on forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
You know, it was
You
great.
got the voice for it, man.
Oh man, yeah. They say I got a good face for radio, Dale.
I've heard that one.
Yeah. All right. So here's the dollar CAD. You know, I look at it as well. First of all, I just want to take a step back because you're probably looking at these shaded areas going, what the hell? We got a couple Garleys. It's a tale of two directions. Like you got to. I was kind of undecided which way that I think the market's going, but I am leaning more towards dollar bullishness, so I could actually get rid of this. And if that's the case, we've got probably a couple of scenarios longer term, depending on how much risk aversion we get here. But anyway, I look at the dollar CAD. We're pushing up against wedge resistance, and if we break, and this is also channel resistance. If we break 134.80, I mean, and it's a bullish wedge. That means the propensity is for a breakout higher. When you have consistent highs and higher lows, the risk is that we break higher. That means there's probably like a 60% chance that we break higher, 35-40% chance we break lower. So it's not a given. It's just, the risks are skewed at this point for higher prices. So anyway, that's what I see with the dollar CAD. So we'll be watching it closely. Break above 134.80 is bullish. Maybe break back below 134. Take us right back into this channel that you see here. So that's kind of how I look at it. With the Canadian CPI. I'm joking. See if I'm catching any of you guys sleeping. I'm the only one sleeping.
Talking about CPI, I have an interesting thing to say.
Oh,
hello.
Stelios is here.
Hello.
Stelios is back with us, back from the UK. How was your trip, Stel?
It was good. I met up with Ryan Kay and some other people, and it was really, really great.
Oh,
some
it's
people
good to
from
have you back.
from the ForexAnalytix family. So that was
you met up with a lot of our traders, didn't you?
Yes, we did. It was lots of fun.
Do you remember any of that?
I had only 2 pints. The others had
what's that about?
N amount of pints, but I was controlled, just like my trading. Not. So one thing before we get the data, we're talking about the US CPI coming up next week, and we're talking about the change in methodology. So we put some numbers to it because Ryan correctly said that the announcement says that they're going to be using 2021 data only as a reference, because it used to be a 2-year period that they used for a reference. Now it's going to be a 1-year period. So they were going to look at 20 and 21 combined as a 2-year period, but now it's only going to be 2021, which is the reference period, and then
I wonder why.
The year on year. So we put some numbers down, and the average inflation for 2020 was 1.3%, and 2021 was 4.2. So you're starting from a higher number, comparing to whatever inflation is going to be, whatever prices you get now, and then you get the rate of change. So guess which way this is going to push numbers? Obviously lower. So that's why I think next week's CPI is going to come in quite a bit softer than expectations. Okay, I could be wrong, but I think that's what logic is.
Look at the big brains on Stelios.
No, that's all Ryan. That's Ryan.
No, it's you, mate. That's the goal. That's what we need to know. That's exactly what you need to know. Things like that, because it changes the whole picture.
Yeah. Hey guys, we are about
10 seconds.
10 seconds away. Hold on. Well, let's see what the reaction
Remember, this is a very
is.
volatile number. This is Canadian employment. So, yeah, let's see. 150. Oh,
150.
oh, big revision lower though.
Wow.
Revision lower by. Oh no, the revision's changed again.
Wow.
This is
Dollar
weird.
Canadian
It's
breaking
higher.
lower.
This is good numbers. Good numbers.
Very good numbers.
Yeah.
It was all in full-time employment, which rose 121k of that 150.
Well, that's fantastic.
And the participation rate went up to 6.7%, which should lift the unemployment rate, but it stayed unchanged at 5% versus 5.1 expected. So good report all round.
So headline number good, quality good, and participation good. So it's
and they're done raising rates in this
well,
this
are
happening.
they?
Right. That's the question, right? Are they done raising rates? And I think that's the question that everybody's asking about every central bank, even after this week with the Riksbank, RBA. We're all asking the same questions. You know, are these central banks done? And heaven forbid we have a strong CPI data, especially after the big brains on Stelios just try to thwart that. I mean, if we have a strong number on Tuesday, this market's going to go bananas. You're going to see dollar ripping, and you are going to see stocks really under pressure. I mean, I think that's the big risk as we go into next week.
There's one thing in these numbers need to be cautious about. The average hourly wages for permanent workers dropped to 4.5% from 5.2% prior, and that was revised lower to 4.7%. So the inflationary aspect of these numbers, you know, going the same way as we're seeing elsewhere, you know, a bit lower. So that might take some of the heat out of this high jobs number.
You know, and here's the thing about the loonie. I'm going to just say, just from trading it for so many years, you know, it's and not always trading it well, and definitely being frustrated for a lot of the times trading the loonie. I'll say a lot of the times, not even sometimes. You know, these numbers on a Friday, I've seen the dollar Canadian completely unwind and reverse positions on Fridays, and you never know why. You're just like, wait a second, that was the strongest data, or that was the weakest data, and by the end of the day, you know, the dollar CAD could very well be right over 135. I'm not saying that's going to happen. It's just, you got to watch yourself trading this one, especially on a Friday ahead of big data next week. No one wants to get caught, you know. I just have to say, proceed with caution. But then again, I've been very careful this week. Hey, we don't have a guest today, which is awesome. That means we're going to have an extra few minutes with the team here. I want to talk about a few things before I get last minute ideas as we go into this week. I just want to point out, if you guys haven't read this blog post, I'm going to stick it in the chat box. Make sure you guys read this. This is from Nick of Jupiter. You can see him right here. He joined the trader funding program, but and most importantly, he's been listening to, and he mentions in the video, he's listened to me. He's listening to these shows. He might actually be listening right now. He mentioned Dale, and Dale, he did not mention, he might or may not have mentioned your age in here in the video, so you should probably watch it. He takes a couple jabs at us, like laughing lovingly, but he's been around for a while, and he's taken the trader funding program, and you should listen to his story. He gives you some tips and tricks on how he did it. So watch this video that's on the blog. It's a good one. It's enlightening. Also, Nick, just so you all know, last year, I want to say November, maybe December, early December, we paid him a very healthy, or very nice amount of money that he's made in the markets. We did the 75-25 split. At this time, he's definitely the largest payout that we've had. And so he's failed the assessment. He's failed a couple times. And he shares with you what he's learned. So make sure you watch that video. Okay. Let's get back into the markets really quick. So the dollar Canadian's kind of holding around these lows. Let's go around the horn and start with Steve. Steve, we haven't talked to you this morning. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, mate.
So what's your takeaway this week? It's been a fairly choppy week of trading. It's been a consolidation week after, the last couple of weeks of central bank meetings. We had the huge jobs report, and this week has been more chop than anything. What do you make of all of it? And what's your best idea going into this weekend, other than sitting on your hands? Because if you're going to do that, you might as well just stick your thumb up. Joking.
For me, nothing has changed since the beginning of the week. I thought that this reversal in the dollar would last for at least a few days until the CPI. And of course, based on the CPI, we see how we move from there. And I'm not surprised that we seem, after taking a little bit of a respite yesterday, we seem to be continuing today. So I'm 100% with Grega in what he said before. I think dollar the DXY should move towards 106, and we see what happens from there.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Stelios, I know you're brand new back in the saddle this week. You've been kind of at Harry Potter's Hogwarts, something rather, this week. But do you have any thoughts and takeaways this week?
The big event, obviously, next week. Going into it, I agree with you when you say that a number which is in line or maybe stronger inflation is going to have the biggest reaction, because really I think the market is now on edge. If this inflation print proves to be strong, then there's no reason for a risk not to sell off pretty hard. But having said that, I think the most likely scenario is we get a big miss in the CPI. So low probability scenario for me is a stronger than expected CPI, but that will have the bigger move in the market. Because even if we say even if CPI drops not by 0.3% year on year as expected, but if it drops by a full percentage point, what's the market going to price in? We're already pricing 2 cuts by not year end, but early next year. What is it going to do? Price 4 cuts? Yeah, it could do, but I think the move is going to be less pronounced on a weak number than it is for a strong number.
All right, that's and I think I would agree with you on that. All right, Stelios. Well, welcome back. It's nice to have you back. K-Man, if you're still here, what are your thoughts going into this week, or about this week, rather? How about that?
This week? Yeah, I think we've seen those yields in the dollar trying to correct after the bumper data last week, but it's holding important level, relatively important levels, at least in the mid 350s on the US 10s. Broken back in the short end above that 440 in the 2s, and we are still seeing dollar buying on rallies. I think it's going to continue. The only thing I would say is that risk if you look at risk in equity markets or in metals, for instance, it's completely different than the risk picture in FX, because you have some pairs which are trading very risk on, like for instance Canada has its numbers, of course, but even Euro-CAD has been is lower, Euro-MEX is lower, which is normally counterintuitive if somebody wants to be short risk. But
we also had Banxico yesterday too.
We also had Banxico, but even before, right? Even before, we were already trading dollar-MEX. I'm not talking about dollar-MEX, right? I'm talking about the Euro-MEX, which
I have the Euro-MEX on my screen right now. And matter of fact, we're about ready to complete an AB equals CD move.
Yeah.
Just FYI, if you guys are like running around getting short that, because I know you've been playing it to the short side, but we are almost complete here. Just FYI.
Still am, because now we're also below those prior lows. What was it in 2008 there or so? We're also below there. We're about to change the big figure again. For me, it's impossible to be short an 11% currency, which is so close to the US, which is still part of the less dirty shirts. So I think, to me, the fundamentals are still telling me that Mexico is a part of the world to be in, and we're getting paid for it.
Yeah. I'm trying to do it and did it overnight, and I was looking at my financing And I was like, damn, that cost me a lot of money just to do that overnight. So yeah, it definitely is. All right. Well, K-Man, any good ideas going into today?
Today, yeah, I'd still buy a few dollars on dips, but very selectively. Perhaps euro, the better ones. If we see a move back into the mid 107s, but really, to me, it's now the market is going to go in preparation mode for the US CPI, and then there's I'm very little tempted to have like fresh dollar positions on. So everything I do now is very short term.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, thank you for your thoughts and your ideas. Ryan, what are you thinking going into this week? And what'd you learn from this week?
What have I learned? I've learned we're in for a.
Well, you learned about drinking pints with Stelios, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, Friday's pips is beer pips, isn't it? You know, that's what I think about. But yeah, you know, it's just prepping for next week. Really, we got the big CPI, we got the Bank of Japan, a resolution perhaps in one part of the story. You know, I'm short dollar yen, and I'm going to be looking to see how that impacts, and hoping that we don't get any tape bombs over the weekend, giving us some big gaps.
Yeah, so I guess you will probably be preparing for this next week as well. Just so you guys, if you guys are looking at the screen, there's a picture of Ryan on the left, K-Man on the right, and we have the Oreo cookie cream in the middle, Stelios. So there you go.
That was fun. That was fun.
Sandwiched between these two.
Go on, say it.
What's that?
Go on, say it.
No, not gonna say it. Not gonna say it. But anyway, hey, it's I'm so happy that you guys got to meet up with a lot of the ForexAnalytix community as well. I know you had a lot of traders there, so great to have you guys there. Let's Grega, what are you thinking going into this week? Any big ideas that you have that you might be looking towards? I know we talked a lot about the euro and the dollar index and what you expect with the S&P and NASDAQ and Dow, but any last minute thoughts?
Well, I still would look at CAD yen, as we discussed earlier this week, around that 100 level. We still haven't managed to reach this one, but I think it's a pretty nice potential resistance right there. Yes, where you have this wave forward. Now it's ongoing, and with this price action till February 14, I really don't doubt that we will see any kind of a breakouts yet. So it's a perfect time for wave 4 to unfold into the next week.
Ooh, man. Wow. So, I mean, that would obviously be looking for weaker Canadian dollar. And after today's number, I mean, are you willing to do that?
Maybe it will be more, yen crosses could potentially be a mover from dollar yen. So
got it. Okay. All right. And it's going to be interesting to see how the market plays out, later today with the Canadian. Like I said, I don't trust Canadian moves on Fridays. That's like the last thing that I want to do on a Friday is trust Canadian move. Now, giving you my ideas and what I'm thinking, going into the end of the week, I'll give it to you after our esteemed host, Dale Pinkert. Dale, what are you thinking going in? And what did you learn from this week?
That price action is ahead of what can happen in the market vis-a-vis failed bond auction, despite all the Fed speak and everything, yields heading up. If you're believe in price action, yields don't look like they're going down. And then backed up by a failed bond auction yesterday that Santelli gave a D-. And, we have a lot of paper to sell. And there sure weren't a lot of buyers showing up for 30-year paper. I think that's a harbinger of what it's going to be like, especially, still going to have the theatrics about the debt ceiling. I'd be careful about a sanguine look or playing the sanguine picture in the treasury market right now.
All right. Well, it yields look extremely strong. There's a lot of repricing going on right now. Just with yields in general. I mean,
we've only begun to price. Oh no,
What's
that
that?
was I've only begun to fight. We've only begun to price it in. So,
Well, you know, speaking of which, I'm going to take your attention over to the euro really fast, and I just want to point out that the euro is actually breaking a channel support.
nice.
We're coming into, you know, some pretty key support around 106.70 because that's the spike low. We have a failed inverted head and shoulder pattern from this week. You can see how we actually had. I actually was short the euro yesterday, you know, around these highs. So I played it, you know, as a failure personally, but you can see a lot of people probably got sucked into this. You know, they're like, oh, look, you know, inverted head and shoulder pattern, that's failing. And so there's going to be a lot of stops below here. And like I said, the market's repricing the Fed now. And you know, when you take a central bank that just, you know, last week, people were expecting 0.5% by the end of 2023, 0.5% of rate cuts. And we all sat here and said, are you crazy? You know, we still have inflation well above 2%. I don't know how in the hell that's actually going to happen. Now you got people backtracking and thinking otherwise. And you see all these other central banks, like I said, Rick's Bank this week, hawkish. You know, you have the RBA says, hey, you know, we could potentially raise, you know, rates higher than where we're currently at. So you got central banks that are actually shifting here. And I think the Fed, you know, we are at risk, especially if we get a strong print on Tuesday. The dollar could really, really take off because, you know, you can see what's happened in the euro this, you know, since October of this last year. We've gone from 95 cents to 110. And just last week, people were telling us that the euro is going to 130. Keep that in mind, right? So we could really see the dollar take off on a strong data next week. And I'm that's what I'm hoping for now. I'm hoping we get it because I would love to see a flush in the euro. I would love to see, you know, a move down to the 200-day moving average really quick. I think that's like, you know what, Dale, what do we say? Up on an escalator?
Oh yeah. Down
up on an escalator.
Yeah.
Down
on the elevator.
Yep.
Down the shaft.
Yep. That's
Wile E. Coyote sitting on a ledge.
That's right. Beep beep.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, hey, I want to say if you guys haven't figured it out, and you guys haven't figured out that this is by far the best and most active community in the markets, come check out ForexAnalytix. You can be involved by taking a trial of ForexAnalytix. It's $1 for 10 days just to try it out. And if you like it, stick with us, you know, get a annual plan, semi-annual plan. We have some people that have, you know, they've been with us for 7 years. They just get annual plans because you save money that way. So you can do that. And then also, you know, you can check out the trader funding program. And, you know, trader funding program, you still get to be involved in the ForexAnalytix community for a period of time, because when you're taking an assessment to trade our capital, we want you inside of our community for so many reasons. You know, obviously for camaraderie, for trade ideas, for companionship, for, you know, talking to like-minded people, sharing with our community your experiences. But more importantly, you know, if you're going to be trading our capital, we want you involved in our community. We would want you there because we are all on the same team in this together. So make sure you check out the trader funding program. Watch that 2-minute video. Make sure you read that blog post that I posted there in the chat box for you guys from Nick from Jupiter. You can also find it on the ForexAnalytix site under our blog. With that being said, I want to say, guys, you know, what a great week, even though it was really choppy, is a great week because we prepared people for the choppiness that was ahead of us. Next week is going to be gangbusters bonkers. So I think it's going to be huge. My wife is not listening to this, but happy birthday, honey. I love you. It's her birthday today. We're going to be celebrating. Yeah.
She's 25, right?
Turn 25,
26.
27 again. Yes, correct. That's correct. So anyway, thank you, team, for being here, and thank you all for your continued support. Dale, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, team, thank you again. Ryan, K-Man, Stell, Steve, Blake, laying it all out on the court for people this week. Hope everyone enjoyed the guests. We had some nice interviews. Joseph Wang, etc. Haven't looked at the schedule for next week, but
Thanks
we
to you,
should-
Dale, as well for
Yeah,
steering
thanks,
the ship,
Dale. You bring
doing
in
what
some
you do, mate.
great people to interview every week.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
so
Grega
it-
too. Thank you too for
Yeah,
being here.
Grega, Wizard, I forgot. Wizard has been in the zone. So, just follow Grega and you'll be okay. And also, consider what we've been talking about. The year is still young. It's only the second month of the year. Make it a good year and take a positive step by investing in yourself somewhere. And instead of trying to get everything for free, when you learn how to spend, you will also receive. And, joining a community like this, we'd like your business. We don't need it, but most people do need this. I know that I've gotten better hanging around these guys for the last 6 years, and I'd be probably not as efficient and not see as many things if I wasn't doing this with these guys and have access to the site 24/7. So have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you, Dale. Have a
Adios.
great
Thank you,
weekend.
Coach.
Yeah, recharge your battery, and remember, most of all, don't just count your pips, count your blessing. Join our club. We're called the Pip Makers. And I'll see everyone. See everyone next week. See you, team.